is Peter Seaton Clark. I'm 46. I was born in England, in Plymouth in England, the southwest. I moved to Leipzig in 2003, so I've been here for almost 15 years in the summer. And I run a voiceover agency and I'm an actor.
I'm Nicola Seaton Clark, his wife, also known as Nicola Chapman, which is my acting name. I'm 45, come originally from South Africa. I help run the voiceover agency and I'm an actress, and yeah, I've been here the same amount, 15 years.
How did you two meet each other?
Basically because I took over her job, so...
I grew up in South Africa and I was a professional actress there for 10 years. Various reasons I decided to leave South Africa. And I really wanted to go to Barcelona. I'd always had this thing in my head of, living in Barcelona. Don't ask me why, no idea. But I knew I didn't speak any Spanish, so I moved first to Ireland, and I lived in Ireland for about 8-9 months. I got myself a job working in a restaurant, sort of 5 nights a week, picking up extra shifts whenever I could, not going out, not spending any money, sort of watching TV, reading books, and working, and that was it, just sort of sucking money away. And I found a TEFL course, which is teaching English as a foreign language to actually train you to be an English teacher. And I found a TEFL course in Barcelona. It's quite expensive, but it was a good course. So I saved up money and eventually booked it. And then I was off to Barcelona. I didn't speak a word of Spanish. I bought myself one of these Teach Yourself Spanish books. So I had kind of the basics when I moved there. Did my course and then said, oh yeah, I'm qualified. And it was the beginning of summer. So I ended up working in a bar.
So I moved to Barcelona on the Sunday, and a friend of mine, Sam, said you need to get a job. I was like, okay, fine. So I wanted to start teaching English because it seemed like the best option at the time. And there weren't any English jobs at that moment, and so I went for a bar job and went for an interview and got the job, and was told that it's basically starting at 7 o'clock in the evening and sort of finishing at 5 o'clock in the morning. And Sam, my friend, insisted and said it was a good thing. Get started, get earning some money, doing all this kind of stuff, pick up the language, and so I did. Met Nicola on the Wednesday, we started dating on the Saturday, and she left.
Was it Saturday?
Yeah.
Okay.
It might have been Friday night, I'm not sure.
I think it was Friday night.
And then you moved to Girona to start teaching up there, so we had this weekend thing, which was quite good because it put the brakes on things.
Lots of phone calls. We spoke almost every day. Yeah. Barcelona.
So, why did you move to Leipzig?
In Spain, during the summertime, all the language schools kind of closed. There's very little work for English teachers. And the summer before, we'd worked in a bar, and we didn't really want to do that again because it was really hard work and not very good pay. And one of his colleagues mentioned Leipzig and said, oh, there's lots of summer work in Leipzig. And we had a look on the map and thought, ooh, Leipzig, former GDR, close to Prague, yes, we'll do that for 3 months. So we turned up. The guy who originally told Peter that he would have some work for us had gone on holiday and not told anybody that we were coming. So there was a bit of a panic there. But then they looked at our CVs and said, yes, okay, fine, you are qualified and you have experience, so yes, you can teach. We started working, got a little flat here, and just really kind of fell in love with the city. Basically, Leipzig is beautiful. It has the most gorgeous buildings, and you can't walk 6 blocks without tripping over a park. I was originally supposed to go back for September, October to start again in Girona. Peter was going to stay until Christmas to make some extra cash because we were getting a lot of work. And after a couple of months of living together, it was the first time we'd moved in together, I discovered that I didn't really want to leave him. I didn't really want to live apart from him again. So yeah, I phoned my boss in Spain and said, I'm so sorry. I'm not coming back. It just kind of snowballed from there.
You're here for so long. How did the city change?
Leipzig has changed. The centre of the town has been developed hugely. So Peterstrasse now is virtually unrecognisable compared with how we
got here before they built the new Karstadt.
Yeah.
It was still like the old GDR building. Scary.
While they rebuilt next to us, and it took forever. Because they kept finding archaeological things.
Yeah, and they kept stopped
there's like some German law that you've got to build the foundations, and obviously they wanted to build the car park and all the rest of it. And clearly they just kept finding crap that was so interesting. The university was like, okay, everybody stop.
Yeah.
Let's get the brushes out. So yeah, I think that the centre of town, the amount of buildings and redevelopment.
There is a huge difference in just walking around the town. When we got here, every second building was run down with graffiti everywhere and windows missing. And so many of those buildings have been renovated. So many. It was literally every second. It was this weird juxtaposition because when we first came here, we thought, okay, GDR, it's going to be, concrete blocks and to a large extent, yeah, there are places where you get a lot of sort of prefab buildings, these, what are they called in German? Plattenbau. You do get them, but not kind of in the center, the Leipzig itself. So when we walked in, we found all these beautiful buildings, but half of them were derelict. You'd see this beautiful molding work on the outside, but it's all chipped and, the noses had come off the little statues and gargoyles and stuff, and there was graffiti everywhere and broken glass everywhere. And all of that, you really have to go to some really dodgy places now to find unrenovated buildings. It's kind of nice, but it's also sad, because there was a lot of, when we first got here, we worked with a guy called Dan. Do you remember him, big guy? He used to go urban spelunking. He would literally break into these buildings at night with a camera and go around with a torch and a camera, exploring these derelict buildings, like climbing up rickety old staircases and...
There aren't so many of them available.
Yeah, no, so his hobby's kind of gone.
I suppose the other big difference is how much more international it's become as well. When we first came here, you really had to learn German because
nobody spoke English.
There was very little English spoken.
Well, that's why there was so much work for us when we first came here, because
teachers.
Everybody needed English, adults and as well as kids. So I mean, we worked almost exclusively with adults. There was so much work. Now work is a little thinner on the ground.
It's alright, because we don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Well, now we run a voiceover agency.
Back in 2008, 2009, something like that, where the student said, we need an English voiceover for a thing. She worked for a media company. And she said, can you help us out? So I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So we came in, did it, knocked it out of the park. Another one came in, needed Nicola. She knocked it out of the park. And it was easy and quick and efficient, and we clearly knew what we were doing and we had experience of doing it. And then somebody said, do you know any French people? And we had a French guy in mind, and so we're like, yeah, sure, we can sort that out as well. And then from that it started. Yeah. We didn't have a studio, we didn't have a Sprecher cabin, a sound booth, or a voice booth or anything. Yeah. We started doing stuff, and it just grew and grew and grew to the point where we've got the office, and the Sprecher cabin is over there, and we've got Jules working for us, and
almost
we've got
500 speakers from 40 different countries.
Yeah.
572.
572 speakers from how many different countries?
About 40
can't
countries.
Get the staff.
Yeah.
How is it to raise kids here?
It's pretty easy. We have really good kids. We have fantastic kids. I mean, we decided to raise them bilingual. So we had an English household, and we always provided English television, English books, English everything. We only spoke English with them. So inside of the household, it was only English. But outside, we always put them through, we sent them to a German Tagesmutter right from toddler age. They went to a German kindergarten, German Grundschule. We're now, our son is in Gymnasium and our daughter's going to Oberschule next year. So they're being educated in the German system, which has advantages and disadvantages. Their spelling sucks in both languages. Yeah, pretty much both languages. But that's, that comes with practice. They both need some support in German grammar because they don't get the German grammar at home. Whereas German parents will correct it, when their children say der instead of den, they'll correct them. I have no idea when it's supposed to be den. That sounds good, because we've never really studied German. We speak it, we run a business in German, but I mean, den, des, den, der, deren, dessen, no idea. There's a lot to do with kids in Leipzig. The Ferienpass that the city of Leipzig puts out for kids is amazing. Every summer holiday we get the Ferienpass because there's so many offers for kids, there's so many things going on that you can literally plan your entire holiday day by day using the Ferienpass. And I'm assuming other cities do it as well, but Leipzig's is really good. And because Leipzig is such a cultural hub, there's always something to do. There's a lot of theatre, there's a lot of music, there's a lot of workshops and stuff for kids to do. And it's also a very safe city. I mean, I would
Despite having the most dangerous street in Germany, apparently.
I mean, I have no problem letting my kids go to the park on their own. They take their bike and they go off into the forest and they come back 2 hours later and it's fine.
I think that's more of a cultural thing, that Germans are much more willing to let their kids go off and do
free
stuff.
range.
I think in England...
In England it would be...
It's probably not quite the case anymore. There's much more helicopter parenting.
In America as well.
The other thing about, you know, the system for bringing or having kids is quite good here. Whether it's having Tagesmutters, so from very, very young age you can have childcare. It's heavily subsidised, it's affordable.
In Leipzig.
Kindergarten in Leipzig. And compared with the UK, where its childcare is very expensive and quite...
And not covered by child benefit.
And I know they have family tax credits and child tax credits or something.
Tell me about something funny or weird that happened to you here.
Because I grew up in South Africa, I spoke Afrikaans, so I learned survival German pretty quickly. So we'd been here for a couple of months. I was in a Lidl or a Konsum or some supermarket, and I needed something. So I had my little translator with me, my little dictionary, and I looked up the word for it, whatever it was, I can't remember. And I approached a staff member, this lovely middle-aged lady who was busy stacking shelves. And in my best German, I asked her, I siezed her and everything, and I asked her, could you please tell me where to find X, whatever it was. She didn't look at me, she didn't make eye contact, she didn't stop what she was doing. All she said was, no, and carried on doing her job. And I sort of stood there going, I was totally flabbergasted. I couldn't actually, I'd never come across such complete rudeness from a staff member. I mean, I'd had people in Spain and in Ireland going, I don't know, you're going to have to ask somebody else, or being a little bit cross with me, but I'd never actually come across someone who literally just went, no. Right. Having said that, it has improved a lot.
I think the weirdest thing that I've ever seen in Leipzig was a few years ago. I don't think I've been here long, maybe a year or two. There was a porn shoot. It was down by the Thomas Church, and by the statue of Johann Sebastian Bach, there was a woman who was basically naked and wearing various things.
As you
but
are.
She was being photographed in various positions against the statue of Johann Sebastian Bach.
As you do.
The thing that I noticed was how many people didn't really bat an eyelid, which was quite interesting. And there were a number of people that actually, were obviously going, yeah. But the thing that was particularly odd was there were a group of 2 or 3 tramps in a doorway nearby masturbating.
What?
And I just remember thinking of all the places to do this.
So give me a recommendation of something to do or to see in Leipzig.
Volksschlachtdenkmal, obviously, you need to go and see, especially if you've never seen it before, which was
especially for South Africa.
Quite a revelation on the bus.
What is it again?
The Volksschlachtdenkmal.
What is that?
Volksschlachtdenkmal. It's the
Battle of
Nations Monument.
Great big thing. I had no idea it existed. I was on a bus going to work and came around a corner and trees cleared, and all of a sudden I saw this thing. I nearly fell off my seat. So next day I made you travel on the bus with me. And she's like, why am I on a bus? I was like, wait till you see this.
And then
there it was.
And like I said, as a South African, it looks like the Voortrekker Monument in Pretoria. It is really scarily like the Voortrekker Monument.
Is it the same size?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the largest freestanding monument in Europe.
And there's just so many beautiful buildings. I mean, you can just literally go into the centre of town and walk around with a camera. Just these gorgeous, gorgeous buildings.
Yeah, just have a mooch around this thing. Go to
Yeah.
the centre of town, have a mooch around. Go up Karl Heine Strasse is really cool. Get a boat, go up the lakes, and the canals, because there are more canals in Leipzig than there are in Venice.
Yeah, really.
True fact, kids.
True fact.